Welcome to channel. Today, we explore story filled with unexpected twists. Please, subscribe and like to stay updated. Let's begin. They woke me up on Saturday. I had woken many times earlier in the day but had fallen back asleep each time. This time, I was more aware and capable of remembering things. Dr. Jonathan Hale and a nurse called Brenda were at my side. Dr. Jones stated that I had been in a medically induced coma since Saturday because my brain had enlarged, and they had to remove a portion of my skull to accommodate the swelling, or I would not have lived. Dr. Jones went on to inform me that I had been shot in the shoulder at my house. I was in the act of raising one of my children off the sofa when I was shot. I slumped, and the kid landed safely on the sofa when I dropped her. My momentum carried me over the sofa, forcing me to strike my head into a walnut table behind it. Fortunately, the children summoned emergency services, which eventually saved my life. The head damage was the most severe. The bullet went through my shoulder without hurting anything essential, although it did graze a vein and produce severe bleeding, which was treated in the hospital. The biggest worry had been the swelling in my head, but Dr. Jones told me that everything was okay today. He intended to replace the piece of skull on Monday and was convinced that I would be totally healed in 7 to 9 weeks. My children and wife entered, holding my hand and embracing me. I can't recall whether we chatted or not since I fell asleep. I awoke every few hours when the nurse checked on me. She'd give me more pain medication because my head was pounding and I wanted to scratch it. That's when I discovered they had tied my wrists together so I couldn't scratch my head. Victor, my neighbor from across the street who worked as a technician and performed various tests on patients at night, dropped by around 5 a.m. He works the night shifts at the hospital on weekdays. He informed me that he heard the ambulance approaching my home and hurried over when he spotted my daughter, Chloe, beckoning for the rescue crew. He discovered me in the basement, blood all around me. My head was gushing like a stuffed pig from the fall, and blood was all over me, so they picked me up and brought me to the hospital in their rescue vehicle. Victor said that as he entered the basement, it was quickly crowded by emergency personnel. They were all over the place, working on me and monitoring the kids. The kids got so much blood on them from embracing me that rescue responders originally feared they were injured, but later discovered they were okay. He informed me that my wife had passed the rescue vehicle heading the opposite way, and they had to explain to her that I had fallen. Victor's wife, Denise, looked after the kids while my wife, Vanessa, traveled up to the hospital to check on me. Vanessa learned in the hospital that I had been shot. She was astonished when the doctor informed her. No one knew I had been shot at the home. The rescue personnel assumed the blood on my shirt was from my head wound. Vanessa simply knew that I had fallen and hurt my head. It just took a few minutes before a policeman arrived and began questioning her. She told him she didn't know anything since she was not there. She had gone shopping. Victor said the officers returned and cordoned off the home as a crime scene. They had a large truck with the words crime scene on it. Cops patrolled the area until 3 a.m., then returned at 9 a.m. to repeat the process. When Victor went, I began to recall a bit. Vanessa went shopping, while the kids watched television in the basement gaming area. We have a lovely den or gaming area in the basement. It is a walkout basement with an 8-foot aperture with a sliding glass door. It also had a screen door, which I left open since it was warm outside. I was watching TV with the kids and then told them they needed to go to bed. They both claimed to be deeply asleep, so I leaned down to pick up Chloe, and that's about all I remember. I think that's when I was shot and dropped her. I continued to tumble, hitting my head on the wood dining table. As I jumped back, I tumbled to the floor, striking the back of my skull. On Saturday, a detective called Nathan Cross came into my room and asked me questions. The doctor urged him to return on Saturday since they were going to put my skull back together the next day. Saturday, I would feel better and more awake. He informed the detective that I would be freed on Saturday. When Vanessa arrived at the hospital, I told her about Detective Spencer, and she informed me that she had previously spoken with him many times. He wanted to know who she thought shot me and who had it in for me. She had informed him that she knew of no one who was an adversary of mine. She informed him it may simply be a drive-by. Detective Spencer informed her that a drive-by occurs in the front of the home, not in the rear. He said whomever did this wanted me dead, which worried her. I never had a chance to speak with Detective Spencer while I was in the hospital. A patrolman was shot, and I believe everyone was seeking for the gunman. I had my skull repaired and was released on Saturday. I had to wear a hockey helmet in case I fell. I felt weak, but by Monday, I had regained most of my strength. Monday, I was home alone while Vanessa returned to work and the kids went to school. I was gazing at the hole in the screen door where the bullet had passed through. I was attempting to find out where the man shot me when the doorbell rang. I held my .40 caliber Sig Sauer in the small of my back when I peeked out the window to see Detective Spencer standing on my doorstep. I opened the door and asked him inside. He apologized for not seeing me sooner, but he was caught up in the cop shooting. We sat and drank coffee together. "So, how are you progressing on the case?" I asked. "Not very excellent. Rescue sort of fouled up our crime scene." "Well, maybe that's not too good for you, but they saved my life." "Oh, absolutely. That's what they excel at. However, I believe one of them took my gunshot. Probably got trapped in his boots, and who knows where it is now." "Do you know where they were shooting from?" "We know about where he did shoot from. Well, within a few feet anyway, but not what kind of weapon it was, and we didn't find a shell casing out there either." "So, is that a revolver?" "Well, it could be a rifle or an automatic, and they picked up the casing." "Any ideas on who it may be?" "No, not so far. That's why I wanted to chat with you. Your wife, Vanessa, can't think of anybody who might want to murder you." "Well, I don't believe I can either." "Is anything happening at work? Are you having any issues with anybody there? Give it to me, no matter how insignificant you think it is. Let me find out what is little and insignificant. That's my job. There's nothing going on at work, not even little issues. I've been working by myself to complete a project for a corporation. I'm not competing for a job with anybody else. I just perform my job and go. I just get out with them sometimes. We all get together around once a month for a drink. We were going on Monday. No one I know is stealing at work, and I have no means of knowing. I could give you names of individuals at work, but I know it wouldn't help." "No, your wife provided me the names from work, and I've already spoken to several of them." "What about the folks you hang out with, drink and party with?" "Erase the list of people your wife provided me. Is there anybody missing from the list, or who might we add?" "Yes, Logan and Miles Carter, as well as Brady and Natalie Sharp, are no longer on the list. I can't figure out how she left them off. It makes me ponder." "Is there anyone else?" he asked. "No, that is it. She did not leave them off. I removed them off her list. I just wanted to check in and see if you would include them." "Okay, good. I couldn't figure out how she slipped up on them. So how are you and Vanessa doing? How long have you two been married?" "Married? Do either of you cheat on the other?" "You know, cops always check the wife on things like this. It has been 16 years this winter." "No, neither of us cheated on each other. You know how a lady and husband may sometimes have a disagreement that lasts a week or a month?" "No, I do not. I am not married." "Tell me about it." "You quarrel with your wife over something, but you eventually make up. Neither of you understands how it began or what it was about. You know you were upset, and you're not going to give up first. Doesn't sound like fun to me. It happens in all marriages." "Okay, I'll take your word for it. So how long has this been going on?" "Well, 3 more days, and it will be a few months, I think." "Wow, a couple months without any sex? No wonder I'm not married. Are you sure none of you has cheated on the other?" "I haven't." "But you're not certain about her?" "No, I did not say that. Her time is always accounted for. No overtime, no weekend work, nothing." "Does she ever go out by herself?" "No. She does, however, go out with her girlfriends on occasion." "Yes, she said me, handing me a list of her pals." "Erase the list. Is there anybody missing from it?" "Wow, 10 names." "Yes, 2 names are missing. I believe she indicated that they went with Vanessa Wilson and Paige Warren. I guess I'm constantly checking in on folks." "Does she have any previous lovers that reside here or nearby? Or do you know of any guys she's been flirting with since you two got into a fight?" "Well, she's been teasing everyone since we got into a fight. She is attempting to irritate me, and I reciprocate with the other ladies. But I don't believe it's someone on the list. You're welcome to check, but I believe you'll be wasting your time." "What hour do they go out?" "What days does she go out?" he asked. "They only attend on Monday evenings. They declare it's ladies' night, so one bar offers free drinks, while the other club offers half-price beverages. However, from what I've heard, the males still purchase the drinks. She said that if they stick together as a group, they would be protected, and they will never separate. They leave about 7 or 7:30 p.m. and return around midnight." Detective Spencer concluded his notes in his book and departed. I was preparing my lunch when I heard the doorbell ring. I grabbed for my pistol again. As I peeked out the window, there came a man from the shop where we had purchased a new rug and sofa for the basement. I instructed them to take it around the house to the basement. They removed the old carpets and furniture. The sofa and rug were covered with blood, so we had to throw them away. Then they brought the new ones over and put them up for me. After they went, I examined the screen door with the hole in it. I next examined the location the officers had marked where they believed the bullet struck. I sat on the sofa, staring out the rear window, wondering where the sniper was positioned when he shot me. Spencer had informed me where he believed he was standing, but he might have been almost anywhere in the yard. My backyard was 100 feet long by 100 feet broad, as was my neighbor's. There was also a 50-foot strip that the municipality controls as a right-of-way for the sewage pipes connecting the two backyards. So the distance between houses was more than 250 feet, nearly a football field. As I sat there, I realized that I hadn't seen Lucas, who is 16 and lives with his grandmother behind us. His parents are estranged, and neither wanted him. He has been with his grandmother for more than 6 years. He and his 14-year-old pal Brady are often playing in the backyard. The sort of game they played always indicated the season of the sport. At the very least, there was enough space so they couldn't shatter any windows. I haven't seen either of them since I returned home from the hospital, which is uncommon. Saturday, just after Vanessa had departed for work, the phone rang. Melissa Gray from work approached me and got into me. "What the heck were you saying to the detective? He interrogated everyone in the workplace about you." I didn't make any comments about anybody in the workplace. He inquired who would want me dead, and I informed him that no one in the workplace would. That was all I told him about everyone there. Why? What happened? Well, when he interviewed me, I sobbed thinking about what you and your children had to go through. He simply spoke to me for a few minutes, and I couldn't go on. I'm not sure. Maybe when you cried, he assumed you had feelings for me. I'm not sure what to tell you. Why and what exactly is going on? Well, he's been checking all of my pals, implying that I had emotions for you and maybe having an affair with you. He suspects that either Connor, my husband, or I did it to you. Gee, Emily, I'm sorry for bringing you and Connor into this, but there is no way I brought him to you. He'll attempt to speak to him, but he could suspect I have something to conceal. I understand. I'm just too emotional. I suppose that is what everyone is telling me. Everyone here has told him he is totally off base, that there is nothing there, so I think I'm beginning to believe them. I am also starting to feel better. After I got off the phone with her and had some coffee, I was certain that Detective Spencer was a pit bull when it came to investigations. It seems that when he checked something, he bit in and refused to let go. I had to laugh. When anything occurs to a spouse, they invariably go after his wife. Watch out, Vanessa. Here comes Detective Spencer to bite you on the buttocks. As I sat there, I considered what he would look into to see if Vanessa had anything to do with it. Hell, she was out shopping at the time, and I doubt she would have been able to shoot as effectively since I was so near to the kids. She would never take that risk. She may injure one of the children. As I attempted to figure out who it was, I grabbed a pencil and paper and made a list of everyone I knew. I then assessed them on who it might be. I ranked them on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the murderer or attempted killer. When I was completed, I had 60 persons on the list, with the best score being a 3, which I had plenty of. 3 of the players on my list were golfers I'd beaten severely, so I figured they had it in for me. A handful more were folks from whom I borrowed tools but lost or misplaced them. I glanced over the list and realized it was a waste of time. The only credible options I could come up with were Vanessa or someone who was banging her and wanted me out of the way so he could move in and have her full time. But the only time she is away from me is when she is out with her pals. I knew the other female she goes out with would never let her play around. The whole situation was a waste of time. But who the heck was it? Every now and then, the men gather at a sports bar to watch a major athletic event. We also play golf, hunt, and fish. The ladies agreed to go out and have some fun every now and then. They went out for the first time after receiving a fresh mail review. They grabbed a taxi and arrived home about 2 a.m., and I believe all of the boys got a little that night. From then on, they would go out and have fun. The spouses did establish a few regulations. We told them they could dance with males, but we didn't want any of them to sit at their table or take them home. They would only travel with the other females and return home as a group. We warned them not to receive hang-up calls or calls from men. We also instructed them not to accept drinks from the males until the waitress brought them over directly from the bar, preventing the guys from tampering with the beverages. The ladies all agreed with our rules, so we were all satisfied. So that left me with Vanessa, who wanted me out of the way. I still couldn't believe she was involved. If it were her, she would have me hauled away from the home so that the children would not witness it. It then led me to believe it was some man who loved her, Some insane son of a bitch who didn't care about the kids. He wanted me out of the way. Was it from her night out or from someone at work? Or was it just someone who saw her out shopping or on the street? There are plenty of insane folks out there. I wondered whether the investigator took a list of persons from her employment. I simply couldn't recall if he did or not. I was wondering whether the girls messed around or acted appropriately when they went out. I could picture them dancing with males, and maybe a man touched them up a bit. I know she has sometimes returned home thrilled, eager to have sex. Hell, I'd have to follow them once I was better. On Monday afternoon, Detective Spencer arrived to the home to speak with me. Spencer began chatting to me as we were sipping coffee. Well, I spoke with the two ladies who your wife dropped off the list of people she goes out with. The first said that she stopped going out with them when she witnessed how some of the females were behaving. She stated too many eager males were attempting to do makeup on the various gals, and she could see no good coming out of it, so she simply stopped going out. Wow, it surprised me. My wife never mentioned what occurred. She'd tell me they simply had a great time. She always stated they could manage the boys, and they weren't too much bother. Well, the other wife informed me that some of the males were really enthusiastic and pushed the old flesh too hard. She once thought her drink tasted odd, so she tossed it and ordered a new one. She also said that several men followed them home one night to check where they lived. That's when she decided not to go anymore. I guess they are having a little more fun than us husbands want them to have. Yes, I spoke with the bartender, and it was difficult to get anything out of him. He wants to safeguard his clients and avoid putting excellent consumers in danger. He enjoys having the females come in because it boosts business. He informed me that several of the females walked outside with men. He doesn't know what they did outdoors, whether they had sex, necked, or simply spoke. He can't keep track of them very well while working. However, he did notice them many times. They are all mature women, so anything they do is entirely up to them. He informed me he sees a lot of new tires in the parking lot every day. Oh, my God. Is one of the ladies that go out with my wife? So I took photographs of all the ladies and presented them to the bartender. Everyone seemed to have gone outdoors with a man at some point. He chose one of the other girls as the one who goes out the most. I had another man check on them last night since they knew my appearance. He said he observed one of them having sex in the back of a vehicle. I cannot give you any names since it is not your business. What I want is the person who fired at you. We spoke for almost a half hour until Vanessa was about to get home, and then he went. I had to inform him that my wife preferred to remain home with me last night instead of going out with the girlfriends. Spencer urged me not to mention anything to my wife until my case was resolved. He wanted me to invite her out next week so he could see whether she met a certain person or was simply nice with everyone. He also wanted to know when she went shopping so he could follow her. Spencer told me that my wife was his strongest lead. I don't think he believed she had anything to do with it, but maybe the weirdo she played up to did. He told me he looked out her employment, but it was a dead end. That did not sound nice to me. That just remained the night she went out. So what would I do about her cheating on me? That is, if she is the bad one. I suppose I'll have to wait and see how everything comes out. I definitely hope she isn't attempting to knock me off. Vanessa went grocery shopping on Saturday morning. She went out again in the afternoon to buy clothing for the family, while I remained at home with the kids. Spencer drove straight past the home every time she left. I suppose he was waiting exactly down the street since he knew when she would depart. Both times, she was gone for nearly 3 hours. I didn't think about it since everything seemed so usual to me. She always returned with enough belongings to give the impression that she had been gone for that long. I even went ahead and double-checked the receipts to ensure they were valid for that day. Nothing seemed weird. We rented a couple movies to watch together as a family that weekend. I wanted to observe them in the gaming room, but Vanessa was terrified to do so. She was still experiencing issues when the kids asked to go down there. She would attempt to persuade them out of it. We discussed the incident when we were alone during the week. I assured her it was only a strange occurrence that would never happen again. But she said, if I didn't believe it would happen again, why was I carrying a pistol in the small of my back? I inquired if she wanted to relocate. She did not. She said she had too many friends here, but she did not want to lose me either. I asked her who she believed shot me, and she agreed that it was a bizarre occurrence that would never happen in a million years. She didn't know anybody who would wish to harm me. We discussed more about the shooting, but not in detail. During the week, I was contemplating what I might say to her to persuade her to go on a ladies' night out. But then, unexpectedly, she asked if she could go out that night. I agreed that she needed to go outside to cool down after the incident. So that was out of the way, and I didn't have to figure out how to persuade her to go out. Throughout the week, I considered how I would inform the spouses of the women's plans for their night out. I know from speaking with the males that we all enjoyed having the ladies go out. The females all seemed more calm. We all agreed that sex with them had escalated. But the girls were disobeying our rules in huge ways, and it had to end. Perhaps it was too late for some of us. On separate days, I would sit in the basement gaming room and watch the school bus pick up Lucas and Brady on the next block. It would also drop them off at 3:50 every day they went. I attempted many times to approach up and chat to the lads, but they had already left by the time I arrived. I worried how Brady's grandmother was doing, but when I saw her out doing her garden work, I knew she was okay. I suppose I'd have to ask her about the guys if I wanted to know anything. They're constantly in the backyard playing games 3 or 4 times a week, if not more. However, they have not come out since I returned home. I'm wondering whether they got into problems at home or school. I've always chatted to the guys and assisted them with their bikes and other equipment. I was going to stop at the pub where the females go. Spencer mentioned the bartender's name, so I wondered if I might ask him for further information. I would go while the girls were not present. I would go throughout the daytime. I devised a strategy to create a false ID for a policeman to present individuals in order to get further information. With my revolver strapped to my side, they would barely glance at the ID and believe it was legitimate. I went on the computer and began creating the false ID. I was familiar with Spencer's demeanor and believed I could replicate it. I produced about 20 IDs and was still dissatisfied with all of them. Then I decided on the 15th one ID produced. I went to the shop and had it laminated. I continued gazing at it from all angles. I wasn't quite happy with it, but it would have to do. I intended to purchase a badge, but Spencer never showed me one. He quickly displayed his ID to me. I went to the post office and took down a wanted poster while no one was watching. I then stopped at a movie shop and stepped inside. I flashed the ID and made sure he saw the revolver on my hip. I then showed him the poster and asked whether he had seen this individual. He took a long look at it and answered, "No, I don't think he has ever been in here." I thanked him and quickly left. I laughed the whole way home. The new ID was being tested for the first time. Maybe you'll simply keep it after everything is done. When I arrived home, I contacted Spencer to see how he was doing Saturday night. He said she didn't dance with any men. She did go to the pay phone to make several calls, but he did not believe she established a connection or left a message. He stated she phoned every half hour but did not speak with anybody. I looked through the photographs we had in the home and took 4 shots of females I knew who went to the bar. Finally, I copied and pasted them such that they looked good enough to show the bartender and obtain some answers. When I arrived to the club, I moved to the far end of the bar, away from the other 3 persons there. I flashed my pistol so the bartender could see it clearly. Then I presented the ID and inquired if he was the night bartender. I discovered he was the owner. He informed me that the night person would not arrive for another 2 hours. I promised him I'd be back. He asked for my name, and I replied, "Captain Keene." I assumed I would outrank Lieutenant Nathan Cross. What the heck? Why not? When I returned later, Al was already manning the bar. Peter screamed from his office, "Am the guy looking for him?" I grabbed for my ID, but he said he didn't need it. He suggested ID frighten more people out of the place, which he didn't want to happen. We spoke for a bit, and I let him do the most of the talking. He informed me that the females were beneficial for his business. He said he works on commission, and they build it up. He merely wanted they could come in another night. Al informed me that he gets various groups of ladies all the time, but they appear to split up after a while when the husbands or boyfriends stop it or the women realize the truth. I gave him the images, and he stated they were from the Saturday night group. He went on to explain that he was not aware of any of them leaving the parking lot last night, but it was a busy night, so he couldn't be certain. He did tell me that one of the guys was extremely intoxicated, and they had to send him out last night. I asked him whether he knew the majority of the men. "Yes, I know 99% of them. If a person scores, he goes back to the bar and brags to everyone who will listen." I asked him for names, and he provided me names and business addresses for every male he knew who went out with her group. He responded, "If you're looking for a truly excellent suspect, look at the lawyer I recommended. He once faced accusations for attempting to sedate a girl. As a lawyer, he was able to have the accusations withdrawn or dismissed. I hear that's when he began hanging around here. He used to hang out at Charlie's pub, but I've heard they told him to leave following the narcotics accusation. When I heard about Charlie's pub, I spoke with him, and he has always been helpful here, but I don't trust him. I provided all of this information to the other detective. "Don't you two speak to each other?" he asked. "Well, I'm his boss, and I'm just checking up on some of his cases as he is on probation, and it's my job to do his evaluation," I told him. I thanked him and left. We had another average weekend. 3 more couples came over for a barbecue and a few drinks. Looking at the males, I pondered when ID informed them about their spouses and what would happen. Will it end in divorce court? Or can we all make it through with the support of a family counselor? I wanted to speak to Vanessa about it all, but I knew I'd have to wait a few days, if not weeks. The best option was to give Detective Spencer a few extra days on the investigation. I believe Spencer was on the correct track. I needed to know who shot me. It was driving me insane not to know. Every time there was a knock on the door or a vehicle speeding by the house, I grabbed for my Sig Sauer. Damn, if I'm not cautious, they'll shoot a family member. I waited until Monday before calling Spencer. I was curious what he discovered with the females last night. What he told me was that he now had a suspect, but not enough to get a warrant to search his home. He said that no court would allow his home to be searched on such poor grounds. So, did my wife chat to the person this time, or did she walk outside with him? Tell me what is going on. Say anything to aid me. Well, as I already said, this man is our primary suspect. He fulfills every profile. He is the sort to sedate and abuse a female if she refuses to perform for him. He has done it before and is likely to do it again. They did not dance. She would not dance with him. She seemed to be furious with him and glared at him all night. They said she shouted at him many times. Finally, he departed rather early without drinking his first drink. She ran to the restroom as soon as he departed, weeping her eyes out. Do you believe she confronted him about the shooting? Maybe, sure. That's what the other detective believes. He believes he was the one she called last week when she was unhappy. We believe he didn't show up or return her calls that week. So, how can we gather enough evidence against him to get a warrant to search his home? Well, I am working on it. Give me some time to chat with a few folks. They'll gather my evidence and go to the district attorney to see if he'll arrest him or get me a warrant to examine his home. I wish I had a bullet or a casing. The weekend passed slowly. I had a lot on my mind and wasn't getting any answers, so I sat back and waited for Spencer. Monday morning, I left the home shortly after Vanessa did. I went over to the lawyer's home and parked out of sight to keep an eye on it. I waited for him in a petrol station convenience shop, drinking coffee. He resided on Maple Ridge Drive in an approximately 10-year-old home. His home was a good 100 feet from the road. I could see heaps of dirt far back beside his garage. I suppose he was having someone landscape his yard for him. He left the home about 8:30 a.m., driving a 4-door white Nissan and stopping at the same coffee shop where I was going. He departed, and I followed him to work. He entered his business office a few minutes before 9. I told Vanessa that I needed to assist a person with an issue that night, so I could also follow him home. He left work at 5 and drove straight home. At 8, he returned and drove to a hotel, where he worked the bar in search of ladies. So now I understood what his routine was. On Saturday, I asked Spencer how he handled the warrant and what the district attorney had to say. He said he never spoke to him. Spencer examined all of the evidence and concluded that he had no bullet or casing, thus there was no cause to investigate the man's residence. He knew the man had firearms in his home since they were registered with the city. No one described the person who shot me because no one saw him. Spencer's sole clue was that the man matched the description of someone who would do anything like this. Spencer informed me that he was placing it in his cold case files, but he was still keeping an eye on him. I wasn't pleased, but I knew Spencer was right. I had even purchased a metal detector and had been searching my property for a bullet or casing, but had found nothing. I noticed a lot of flip-tops made from beer cans and roofing nails, but nothing like a bullet casing. Monday, I borrowed Logan's white 4-door Nissan and waited for the lawyer to arrive at work. I waited half an hour after he departed before pulling into his driveway and parking where he always did. I was dressed in a suit coat and cap, just like him. If anybody saw me, they'd assume it was him. I headed over to his home, and all of the doors were closed. As I entered the backyard near the garage, I saw a sawhorse that had been modified into a rifle rest stand from which to fire. There were perhaps 50 casings laying on the ground. I looked to see where he was filming and discovered the location. It was where he kept the dirt pile. He was using it as a bullet backstop. There were 10 sandbags on a wooden platform behind his target to collect shots. I pulled out my pocket knife and delved inside the sandbag. I got away with 5 wasted rounds. I returned to the casings and picked up 3 of them, placing them in my pocket. Then I got the heck out of there. On the way back to swap the automobile, I thought, well, we have the scum sucker now. Detective Spencer, did you want evidence such as bullets and casings? Okay, I have them now. Following the automobile swap, I went to the neighborhood bar for a drink and a roast beef sandwich. I felt joyful than a pig. I was sitting there, observing the various folks in the pub, and I was smiling from ear to ear. When I arrived home, I made coffee and studied the casings and bullets. I was concerned about the bullet since it showed no damage. The shell casing looked fantastic after being outdoors for a time. I was certain I could get away with the casing. I didn't expect the bullet to fly if I informed them I had discovered it as well. I sat in the den and gazed out into the backyard. That's it. I'd get Lucas and Brady to pretend they discovered the case and put it in their pocket without telling anybody. That will definitely fly. Why not? I simply needed to contact the two of them right now. The bullet was another thing. This guy was a lawyer who had gotten away with several earlier charges. I'd need all of the evidence I could find to establish a compelling case against him. I had to find out how to maintain enough details for the matchup, while also taking into account the bullet's damage from striking a metal post. For the time being, I've opted to concentrate on the casing and leave the bullet for later consideration. My next step was to chat to my wife and get all of the information she had. I needed to get the truth out of her. The best option was to send the kids to their grandparents for the weekend. That way, I could chat to Vanessa and gather all of the information I needed without the kids nearby. I went on the internet and looked up criminal information on the casing and bullet. The more I looked at the bullets, the more I realized I needed to ignore the slug and focus only on the casing. But then I had 5 bullets to work with, hoping to damage them just enough to make it seem as if they had struck something. With 5 projects to work on, I should be able to complete it. Now that I think about it, I could always return and acquire more rounds if I needed to. I'd start on them in a few days since I was too excited to work on them right now. With the kids out of the house, we headed out to eat alone. We had a wonderful day eating and dancing. The sex that night was fantastic, and we both had a great time. The following morning, I cooked breakfast. After we finished, we handled the dishes, and I told her I wanted to chat to her about her ladies' evenings out and pals. Vanessa didn't look so nice when I said it. Her face paled, and she was having difficulty breathing. We grabbed our coffee and went to the den to discuss. Vanessa, someone fired a shot at me. They wanted me dead, and I believe you have the solutions to the issue. I would want you to tell me the complete truth about you gals when you go out at night. If you recall, we urged you females to go out and relax and have fun. We didn't mind if you danced with boys, but we did have certain guidelines for all of you to obey. Well, now that I know all the rules have been violated, I believe it is time to stop the ladies' night out. Yes, Eli, Saturday was my last night out with the ladies. The females all spoke about it. We all decided to disband the group, she said. Okay, good. Now start telling me about going out and how the rules were breached. I want to learn everything. I know some of the pieces from Detective Spencer, but I do want to hear your version. Well, here is when the tears and screaming began. She kept saying how sorry she was and how dumb she had been. I handed her a box of Kleenex and bought us some more coffee. Then I encouraged her to begin her narrative and not leave anything out to protect me from being wounded, which made her weep all over again. When we first began, we had a lot of fun going out without our spouses and letting our hair down. We maybe drank a bit too much throughout the first 2 months. We stopped drinking so much and simply enjoyed the music and dancing. We knew that the men were searching for a fast piece, but we also knew they wouldn't get it from us. The men were new and attempted to toy with our bodies. We allowed some of the boys do it, but we quickly stopped others. The men all said the same thing, yet some of them were convincing. It was stuff I hoped to hear from you. I overdid it with a couple men and let them really feel me up. It was much like high school or when we first started dating. It was quite excited. I just got carried away with it. The boys would say things to me that I wished you would say, but you never did, at least not recently. Well, with the cocktails, I let their conversation go to my head. Then, when we had a dispute and were upset with each other, I went crazy. I'm so sorry, Eli. Then I allowed the lawyer, Kevin Doyle, to get me too excited. It wasn't just a little, it was completely out of hand. It was the last time I fought with you. I'm not sure what we were arguing over. I simply know neither of us were talking to each other. I saw myself necking with him in his vehicle, like I had done with boys in high school. We kissed and felt each other up. Then I felt dizzy and awoke to see him having sex with me. I had no way to stop him, so I simply lay there and let it happen. I later discovered that I was sedated. Then I'm not sure how he obtained my phone numbers, but he phoned me at home and at the workplace. He suggested that the next time we went out, we stay in a hotel room together. He assured us that we could go for a few hours and no one would notice. I told him to fuck off, in those exact terms. On the final contact, I informed him that if he phoned me again, I would tell my husband, and you would knock the snot out of him. Well, you were shot 2 days later. After a time, I thought it was Dan who shot you. I even challenged him about it at the bar. He said, "Why would I shoot you? Hookers are really simple to get by. Hookers are a dime a dozen at all the bars in town, and I should screw off and leave him alone if I wasn't going to the hotel with him." I shouted at him to go. He had the audacity to question me about the hotel once more, and I shouted at him again before he left. That's when I told the girls we weren't going out anymore, and they all agreed. Why would he kill you? I would be in grief, and he would not be receiving anything from me. I am confident he did not shoot you. I didn't believe he shot me, but he was going to be punished for screwing my wife. I knew right then that I was going to place all of the responsibility on him and see how he got out of it. So you don't believe he was the one who shot me? I asked her. No, I do not believe he did it. I know he has a variety of females. He is the sort to injure women and bait females, but he would never attempt to hurt a man since it may backfire and damage him. Dan is a lover and not a combatant. He informed me he was home with his partner, preparing for a case. Dan said that they were there from 6 until 3 a.m., working on the case for the next morning. He responded, "Just ask my partner." Well, I don't care what he told you. Detective Spencer will handle him. Screw his partner. What do you imagine a partner would say? Of course, he will accompany his companion. We wrapped off with her telling me more about the night and how terrible she was. She also informed me about the other females and how much they loved their husbands. Too much booze was the major issue. Monday, I wasn't sure what to do with the bullet. Should I attempt to utilize it without any damage? I could make do with the casing, but not the bullet. I debated having the kids behind me locate it. ID chat to them, go to where ID put the casing, and then leave it for one of them to locate. But the kids haven't been around, so I wanted to do it now. At noon, I paged Detective Spencer, who phoned me back at 1. When I informed him I had discovered the casing, he ordered me not to touch it and that he would be right out with a crime scene team. I then walked out into the yard and dropped the casing where I assumed the sniper had fired from. Spencer arrived at 2 p.m. with his people, and I showed him where I discovered it. They snapped a dozen photos from every angle. I overheard one of the men remark, "We examined the whole place. It seems unlikely that we missed it. We went over this place 3 times. They departed about 4, and at 6 p.m., Detective Spencer phoned to inform me that they had obtained a warrant and had Dan in jail. They were going to investigate his residence to determine whether the casing matched one of his weapons. I thanked him and informed Vanessa about it. She continued to deny that he was involved. When I informed her about discovering the bullet case, she looked at me oddly. Spencer came to my place for coffee and conversation. He informed me about Don's alibi. He went on, stating it was a difficult case to solve since the casing had led him directly to Dan. He said that Don counsel wants the charges dismissed, but the DA would not go further. The investigator had compiled a list of women who had filed accusations against Dan for abuse and violence. Spencer had already won the court case, so he wasn't sure whether he could utilize the women's comments. He stated he'd need another statement from Vanessa outlining everything, including the phone conversations. Both of us, along with the children, would have to testify in court about what had occurred. He urged to speak the truth as you know it, and the same for the kids. He didn't want to put the kids through it, but he had no choice. The DA will meet with all of you to go over what will happen in court. Only your wife will be cross-examined by his counsel. They will not bother with the children. ID asked Detective Spencer what the punishment for attempted murder would be. He said everything from 14 years to probation. Had seen it everything. Everything relies on the witnesses and the quality of the evidence. A few days later, Detective Spencer phoned to tell me that things didn't seem good. He stated he discovered Dan would jog on the route behind our yard. He said that his lawyer claims the bullet slipped out as he was running, which the jury may accept as genuine. Spencer stated he hoped he could locate the bullet. For days later, I handed him the bullet and told him I discovered it in the basement. He brought me to headquarters, where he and a detective called Dean questioned me for 3 hours. I wouldn't modify my narrative about finding the bullet in pristine shape. They remarked it was inconceivable to locate a bullet in such superb shape. I advised them to go to the Warren Commission. They discovered a bullet similar to the one that killed President Connor Kennedy. Look it up. If it can happen to a president, it can also happen to a bricklayer. The grand jury began on a Monday. Our family did everything. We went before the grand jury, and they charged him with attempted murder. The newspaper and television stations both wanted to interview us, but we declined. 2 months later, I was in the basement when I saw Brady go into Lucas' home. I went over to chat to the lads about why I hadn't seen them around lately. I was concerned that they had or were going to get into trouble. I knocked on the door and rang the bell but got no response. Finally, I returned home and retrieved the key we had to their house. When I entered, I cried out to the lads. I received no responses from them. I knew they were within the home, but where and why were they hiding from me? I discovered them in Lucas' bedroom, under the bed. I instructed them to come out from under the bed and sit on it. I could see them both shivering, and I knew they were afraid of something horrible. I had bad ideas, such as, did they kill their grandmother? Why are they scared? When I inquired where their grandmother was, they informed me she had gone to her senior meeting. Then I recalled where she went on Tuesdays. I sat in a chair near the bed and had a heart-to-heart conversation with them. I stated that I was their buddy and was not aiming to harm them in any way. I was there to aid them. I knew they had done or planned to do something wrong. After all of their wailing and their claims that there was no way I could assist them, I eventually persuaded them that I would help them regardless of what they did. What they told me almost shocked me. They're the ones that shot me. They led me upstairs, where their grandpa had a replica General Patton Colt .45 with a holster. I snatched it up and removed out the bullets. A single gunshot had been fired. Yes, it had passed straight through my shoulder. We returned to the bedroom, and they told me the tale. Their grandmother had left the home, and the boys discovered the Colt. They brought it out to the backyard and played with it. Brady, the 14-year-old, had it, and Lucas attempted to grab it from him. They stated it went off, but didn't know which way it traveled. They dashed into the home and put it away. They subsequently washed their trousers and vowed to never do it again or tell anybody. They felt horrible when they discovered out I had been hit. They liked me a lot, but they would not admit it. I had a lengthy conversation with them and eventually informed them that they did not shoot me. Another person who was sleeping out there shot me. They discovered their gunshot on the side of my home. They discovered a .45 caliber bullet in the side of the home. They inquired why they didn't notice the person, and I told them a lengthy narrative about how he was a skilled Army Ranger who was disguised and understood his abilities. They purchased it. I told them I was going to keep the gun and that they should forget our conversation since it never occurred. We all promised we'd never discuss it again. When I returned home, I stored the pistol in a safe, and I felt better knowing how I was shot. I could stop thinking that someone was trying to murder me. I knew Dan was innocent, but the scumbag was going to pay a high price for nailing my wife. Screw him. They'll show him how to fool around with married ladies. I knew she was just as culpable, but she was my wife, and I loved her. I sat there drinking a beer. It felt like a big weight had been lifted off my shoulders knowing that no one was seeking to murder me or harm my family. I suppose it affected me more than I would admit. When the trial began, I was the first person summoned. I told the district attorney what had occurred to me. I exaggerated the severity and how I was still in pain from continuous headaches. I should have received an Academy Award for my performance. Dan served as his own defense counsel since he was so arrogant and he knew he hadn't done anything. I suppose he believed it was a guaranteed thing, so why give it to another lawyer? Lucas, his companion, occupied the second chair. Dan simply asked me one question. Did you see who shot you? And I answered him, no, I didn't see you, which the court removed from the record. That's all he asked. I had prepped my children for the trial by telling them to weep like hell on the stand. Simply weep your eyes out whenever they sense the sorrow of their father being wounded. Both of them did an excellent job, and it took an entire day to go through their brief account of the shooting. Dan inquired whether they'd seen the guy who shot their father, and they both responded no. That's all he asked. The three ladies who filed accusations against him came next to inform the jury about Don's character. They all claimed Dan had drugged them, but the court ordered that statement removed from the records due to a lack of proof. However, the jury had already heard it, therefore it was a point for us. Dan let Lucas handle them. Lucas questioned whether they were attempting to retaliate for losing their court case against Dan, and the ladies responded no. Lucas laid into them and won that portion of the trial. My wife Vanessa was the following speaker, and she shared her experience. She also said that she believes Dan sedated her. She described the event over the course of a week of phone conversations, for which the district attorney had complete records. She informed the jury that she believes Dan shot me to have her all to himself. On Dawn's turn, he questioned her repeatedly, attempting to show a lie here and there, but she insisted on the intercourse. He was rude and wanted her to claim it was the finest sex she'd ever had, and he kept reminding her she was under oath and had to speak the truth. Dan was questioning her about all the females in there and wanted her to say he could have anybody he wanted. She remarked, "You would have to ask the other ladies." He said, "You know I can get any lady I want, don't you? And you're under oath." Vanessa responded, "Yes, if you put enough drugs on them." He was furious now. He mocked her, claiming she was just out for fast sex in the parking lot. The questioning took a long time and was not enjoyable for her. She was quite unhappy when it was finished. The following day, the medical and hospital personnel were present. That was a slow and dull portion of the trial. They were followed by Detective Spencer. He informed them what he discovered at the site, followed by the casing and, subsequently, the bullet. He discussed the inquiry into the ladies' night out drinking, which brought him to Dan. When asked whether it was typical to uncover evidence so late in a case, the district attorney said that it occurs in around 25% of instances. He also said that he discovered a firearm at Dawn residence that matched the case, and that the bullet was fired from that gun. The ballistics expert then said that he had matched the pistol at Dawn residence to the case, and that the bullet had been fired from that gun. Dan cross-examined both guys, and they held their ground. Dan continued insisting it was a setup, that I was out to get him for having sex with my wife. The section describing the bullet took a whole week to complete. Both sides had specialists on the bullet, one stating it might happen and the other arguing it couldn't be the bullet. The Warren Commission report was the principal factor that benefited us, if at all. Dan invited his companion on to provide an alibi for that night. The district attorney tore into him, asking how much money they would lose if his partner was found guilty. The district attorney also found it amusing because Dawn's partner had served as a witness in his previous 3 cases, providing him with an alibi. For concluding remarks, Dan said that all of the ladies and men were 304s out for a nice night, just like him. He was only guilty of having a nice time. He had an alibi for that night, therefore it couldn't be him. He informed them that the bullet and casing had been placed, and his specialists confirmed this. They all rested, and the jury took over. After 4 hours of deliberation that day and 6 the next, the jury found him guilty and sentenced him to 5 to 14 years in state prison for attempted murder. That will teach him to disrespect my wife. After 6 months, Vanessa and I reconciled, and everything is now back to normal. The tale of how the other women and spouses fared will have to wait for another day, but I can assure you that the majority did not fare as well as I did. Thank you for witnessing this incredible tale of treachery, deceit, and justice unfold. What would you have done if you were the husband? Let us know in the comments, and remember to like, share, and subscribe for more stories.